Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this newscast on the Dan Broadcasting System. The headlines: tomorrow is Reunification Day celebration. President Paul Biya is in Boya, whereby he would preside over the long-awaited anniversary that saw Cameroon, East and West Mongo come together in union. That was our lone headline. Televiewers, once again, you're welcome to this newscast. President Paul Biya has today inaugurated the 50th Independence and Reunification Monument in Boya. This is prior to the 50th anniversary celebrations of the reunification scheduled for tomorrow, February 20th in Boya. Agbo Donald is in Boya right this moment, and he's telling us how the event opened up.
Southwest Governor Bernardo Kalia Bilai now has a new neighbor. A 10-meter tall architectural beauty weighing 162 tons and having a diameter of 17.21 meters has been inaugurated some 5 meters away from his office. Its beauty reflects the peaceful and stable nature of Cameroon 50 years after independence and reunification. President Paul Biya and wife Chantal, together with Cameroonians, looked extremely happy unveiling the monument, which will henceforth mark a great milestone in our history and will serve as a reminder for all Cameroonians to never forget the fact that our nation is united and must remain as such, one and indivisible. President Paul Biya's visit to Boya has been so far received with effervescence by its populations in particular and that of the entire Southwest region in general, and the inauguration of the 50th anniversary of Independence and Reunification Monument is just one of those kind gestures they expect from the state visit.
I'm a very happy person today, a happy Cameroonian. To have the president in Boya, it's a very big privilege for the people of Boya, and we say thank you to the President Paul Biya for coming to Boya. What he has given to us, we cannot say it's enough, but we hope and we pray that he has so many things still to unveil for the people of Boya, and we expect them. We are not going to demand anything, but we know he has better things for us in mind.
All is therefore set for a beautiful celebration come February 20 as Cameroonians prepare to renew their vows in total joy and harmony.
Meantime, messages magnifying architects of Cameroon's independence and reunification of present-day Cameroon are flying high in the streets of Boya as the independence and reunification gain stream. Inhabitants of Boya and visitors are taking down memory lane in the history of the country through these messages. Babla Jonathan tells us more.
Praises, tributes, and exhortations brandished through the streets of the Southwest regional capital, Boya, within the context of the celebration of Cameroon's independence and reunification. The content of some of the messages magnify the presidential couple, while others pay tribute to fathers of independence and reunification. Regarding the presidential couple, some of the messages read: Paul Biya, the architect of modern Cameroon. His Excellency Paul Biya, architect of a prosperous and emerging Cameroon by 2035. Mrs. Chantal Biya, a kind-hearted lady at the service of Cameroon. In another perspective, tributes are paid to Cameroon's first president, Amadou Ahidjo, described as a national hero and promoter of independence and reunification for a united and prosperous Cameroon. Forefront actors in Cameroon's independence and reunification also recognized in messages in the streets of Boya and other parts of the country include Dr. E.M.L. Endele, Solomon Tandeng Muna, John Gu Foncha, Chief Ebanja, and Chief Bu. In another message, like this one from the Cameroon Tea Estate, Cameroonians are exhorted to come together for a prosperous and emerging nation in unity, peace and harmony, while this one is expressing the linguistic and cultural diversity of Cameroon considered as a component of the personality of Cameroonians. All of these are backed by national colors pinned on poles on both sides of roads across the city of Boya.
While down the memory lane, Philip Sotain, our next report, tells us how the word reunification became a part of Cameroon's history. His report.
After the Germans were defeated in World War I in Cameroon, its territory was partitioned between France and Britain. On June 28, 1919, Germany signed the Versailles Treaty, relinquishing all of her colonies, including Cameroon, to Britain and France. After World War II, Article 76B of the United Nations Charter called on Britain and France to develop their territories towards independence and self-government. This development process went on till January 1, 1960, when Cameroon, east of the Mungo, gained her independence. Cameroon, west of the Mungo, that was attached to Nigeria, by virtue of the fact that Nigeria was also a British colony, had to wait for a while because Nigeria was still under British rule. While Britain was preparing Nigeria for independence, West Cameroon, that included the northern and southern parts, was also being prepared to choose between staying with Nigeria or reuniting with East Cameroon. On February 11, 1961, a plebiscite was organized by the United Nations. The results of the plebiscite gave the northern part of Cameroon to Nigeria, while the southern part voted to stay, or while the southern part voted to reunite with East Cameroon. The Fumban Conference of July 16 to 21, 1961 met to negotiate the terms of union, the result of which was a federal system of government that lasted till 20th May 1972, when a peaceful revolution transformed the country into a unitary state. Meanwhile, August 14, 1961 saw the adoption of the federal constitution, and independence from British Southern Cameroon was secured on October 1, 1961.
Tomorrow, Thursday, 20th February, shall be commemorated as Cameroon's Reunification Day, and all that took place in the town of Boya. In our next report, Ajara Ali tells us the role played by Boya in the reunification story.
Boya, the town of legendary hospitality, has been the limelight of Cameroon-rich towns that from time immemorial has several lineage to the great history of Cameroon. Being as the headquarters of German colony from 1901 to 1919, then after the First World War, Boya became the capital of Southern Cameroon in 1949 to 61, when Southern Cameroon thought of joining its French-speaking brothers west of the Mungo. Located at the foot of Mount Cameroon with Bakwere appellation, Boya, it is a museum of Cameroon history with a famous presidential lodge, the military headquarters, and a town that holds the first Anglophone university. Boya continues to make history as Cameroon today sleeps under one umbrella of being a reunified nation, having one president, one flag, one people. There will be no Cameroon history without Boya, a town that has given birth to righteous Cameroonians that have worked at the interests of this nation. If we celebrate reunification today without mentioning Boya, then history is left behind as the head of state inaugurates the reunification monument, a town that calls for celebration. Boya will live to remember Cameroon history.
While we stay with Boya to remember Cameroon's history, we have a Cameroonian, barrister Com Desiree, who expresses his opinion about the celebration of the reunification of Cameroon's independence.
Reunification is a good thing for all Cameroonians. You know that in the history, in 1961, Cameroonian of this side, of the French side, decided to unite to Cameroonian of the other side, of the English side, so that they decided to live together. If they decided to live together, it's for the future of our country, it's for the cohesion, for the harmony of our country. But there is a problem. The problem is that our brothers of other side, of the English side, are always presenting some revendication. I would like, and I hope that our chief of state, President Paul Biya, is going to look at those problems with the eyes of a father of a family. Because when in a family, you have some of your children who are crying, who are making some revendication, you cannot remain as somebody who is indifferent or at those revendications. So I would like that our head of state, who is the father of the family, who is the father of Cameroon, I would like him to look as a father of the family at those revendications, to try to solve those problems, not all the problems, but to try to solve some of those problems which in my own size are very pertinent, especially at this celebration of the reunification.
The West region is now set to celebrate the country's reunification. Week-long activities that included a preparatory meeting, clean-up campaign and a sports walk are some major activities in which they took part. Philip Sote has that report.
It was a meeting to take stock of the state of preparedness of the West region towards 50th anniversary celebrations of reunification. Seated around Governor Miji Yawa Bakari were administrative and municipal authorities, law enforcement officials, among others. Each and every one was called upon to ensure that no stone is left unturned to ensure a hitch-free celebration. Another high point of the reunification week activities was this sports walk along the streets of Bafoussam, organized by the West Regional Delegation of Youth and Civic Education. Participants clad in their tracksuits came out in large numbers to take part in the exercise. An exercise at the end of which the Secretary General in the West Governor's Office sizes up the value of reunification.
After the 50 years of reunification in our country, first of all, we have tried to learn to live together, the Anglophone and the Francophone. And at the same time, our country, the government, they have tried to achieve, to implement bilingualism in our country. And today we have realized that it's really effective nationwide.
Like other regions of the country, the West is now fully set to be part of the 50th reunification story.
Away from the reunification story, the 2014 local book fair is going on at Parc des Princes at Bali in Douala. Organized by École sur l'Arbre Humanitaire, this book fair is aimed at enriching and encouraging the spirit of reading in Cameroonians. Our reporter Evelyn Fominki, accompanied by Sani Mohamedou, visited the book fair and now paints a picture of how it's happening there.
Going round the book fair ground, one could see thousands of varied books and documents and hundreds of different personalities, from economics to marketing, biomedical sciences to dictionaries and encyclopedias, all at an affordable price of 2,500 francs.
The prices, they are affordable. The Cameroonian which don't have means can try by himself to come and get some document here.
According to these visitors, this fair is laudable and important, especially in a country like Cameroon, where the spirit of reading is still a problem.
This operation, in my own side, is very interesting because those documents are very interested, especially in some aspects as sciences, mathematics, physics, juridical section.
Barrister Com continues to point out that the book fair would have been perfect if language were given a balanced representation.
I observe that there are not many documents concerning English. The documents which I've seen are documents concerning French system, in French language.
That notwithstanding, the book fair is open to all, male and female, scientists or artists, and so far, the initiator and CEO of École sur l'Arbre Humanitaire, Charles Aurélien Tola, says the turnout is satisfactory. He regrets and apologizes for the unequal provision of both English and French books, but has promised to look at that in the future. Worthy of note is that this is the 8th edition of the Accord Célèbre Humanitaire Book Fair taking place at Parc des Princes, Bali here in Douala. Officially launched on 17 February 2014, the book fair will run through 22nd of February and then continues in Yaoundé from the 24th of February 2014.
A man of about 56 years old is reported to have been allegedly killed by his mother in the Oyak neighborhood in Douala. Eyewitness account says he was involved in a dispute with his mother, who pushed him and in his ill state fell and later died. We'll now listen to an eyewitness who tells us more.
C'était le matin à 6 heures. Il était 6 heures.
It was at about 6 a.m. that the victim had a dispute with his mother in their house, after which we were alerted that the mother pushed her son, who fell and died. We were also informed that the man was sick. We immediately called the police, to no avail.
We're taking you out of the country, the Central African Republic, where authorities have declared war on the Balaka Aminisha for carrying out several attacks on Muslim civilians. VOA has more.
Of anti-Balaka continue to roam the countryside of the Central African Republic. They are accused of slaughtering Muslim civilians as revenge for atrocities committed by the Muslim Seleka rebel coalition during its 9 months in power. Many say they came to the capital to fight Seleka in December and force out the government of Seleka leader Michel de Toja. But international troops in the CAR say they are, quote, outlaws, as the movement devolved into looting and mob violence. Some anti-Balaka turned to setting up roadblocks on country roads. Teenagers brandishing weapons and extorting money. French and African Union troops are responding with force. Mediation could prove difficult. This loose federation of militia groups has several leaders claiming to speak on its behalf. Some say continued insecurity here is the work of, quote, uncontrolled elements and fake anti-Balaka. Joachim Kokate represented the anti-Balaka at a regional summit in January.
It is the time for justice. We just need to target those organizing theft, looting, and extrajudicial killings. They should be sought out, arrested, and turned over to the authorities, and they will answer for their acts.
Many anti-Balaka tell VOA they want the same treatment Seleka rebels are getting. They want to be barracked, paid, fed, and given the chance to join the National Army as part of disarmament. Some see themselves as liberators of the country. Anti-Balaka fighters are recognizable by the talisman they wear.
See this? A Kalashnikov bullet. You could fire on him and it wouldn't go through. You could stab him and it wouldn't go through. And there are others. Grenades can't hurt us.
The conflict here has increasingly been cast as sectarian, but the anti-Balaka, made up of both animists and Christians, insist their mission is patriotic, not religious. Their leaders say the anti-Balaka number in the tens of thousands. The movement has its roots in self-defense militias that have been around primarily in the West since the 1990s. They were locals' response to general lawlessness and state indifference. Those militias were joined by ex-military, loyal to former President François Bozizé, after he was ousted by Seleka last March. French and African Union troops continue to recover large caches of weapons and munitions from the militia, and have made some arrests.
In the meantime, the death toll of a suspected Islamic attack in a remote village in Nigeria continues to increase, and already some 1,000 people who fled from the villages living in makeshift areas ends at Kaduna, and the situation is getting worse with fear for the government that attacks may come in Kaduna once again.
This is Uba Sani. When Nigeria's 2011 elections turned violent, he and thousands of others fled their homes. He now lives in a camp in the northern part of the city.
And all our properties are burned, and all our vehicles are burned, and they kill our people there. Almost getting to 1,000 people are dead on that crisis.
Sani says he would leave this place and rebuild his home if he had the money and if security forces could guarantee the safety of what's left of his family.
I lost my one son in the crisis, and I lost my 5 junior brothers in the crisis.
But religious leaders say unless politics in Nigeria change, elections in cities like Kaduna, where the mostly Muslim north meets the mostly Christian south, will remain dangerous. Pastor Yohana Buru says politicians create a sharp divide between Christians and Muslims.
If you bring economical or political or social or whatever issue, marry it with religion, you satisfy the desire, the yearning of a Nigerian, the curiosity of a Nigerian, and you can easily get him and push him to any length.
Buru's colleague, Sani Isa, a Muslim imam, says Nigeria's upcoming 2015 presidential elections are already polarizing.
I'm deeply concerned and I'm afraid. I entertain fears. Why? Because I can see some people, some politicians, and some electorates who are to cast their vote. I can see them starting to bring religion into it.
Officials in Kaduna say they hope to avert a crisis next year by beefing up security and vowing to prosecute anyone guilty of election violence. Civilian security groups say the only way to make Kaduna safe is to increase patrols and share information with the police, stopping crimes before they happen. Retired Navy Captain Abu Umar.
So we gather local intelligent report and we stop the crime at the planning stage before the crime starts.
At the camp, Sani says these measures could work or violence could be averted because Kaduna has largely divided itself like the rest of the country, with Christians in the south and Muslims in the north. Of the thousands who moved to this camp in 2011, only a few hundred remain. For families still living here, Sani says, even peaceful elections won't offer much comfort.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meets with Palestinian President in France today, Mohammed Abbas, to talk on peace, a resolution with Israel. VOA once again.
Secretary Kerry says he's in Tunisia to show Washington's support for this young democracy.
We are providing additional assistance, and we are engaging in a strategic dialogue. And those are important announcements. And we thought it was important to come and make those and to congratulate the people of Tunisia for this constitution that has been created.
As the birthplace of the so-called Arab Spring uprisings, Tunisia remains a powerful symbol, says Oxford University researcher Monica Marks in an interview on Skype.
Tunisia is the country in the region that has the greatest chance of succeeding with its revolution. And if it fails, it's going to be very difficult for democratically minded reformers and revolutionary thinkers to stay inspired, to keep up the hope. Because if we look elsewhere in the region, in Egypt, in Syria, in Libya, the situation ranges from dire to depressing.
Tunisia's new constitution is the product of crisis negotiations between Islamists and more secular parties. But opposition politician Nadia Shaban says it discriminates against women and non-Muslims.
If they want to form a religious state, they should make that clear, and then we would know how to react. But they can't say that they support the idea of forming a civil state and at the same time try to dig in here and there in order to include things that violate the formation of a civil state.
The country is also facing considerable economic challenges, with politicians under pressure to show they're improving people's lives.
They're seeing that the cost of food is higher relative to income than it was before the revolution. Believing that the revolution was a good thing, believing that democracy brings positive change, becomes harder. And as wonderful as the passage of the Constitution recently was, for this revolution to be sustainable, your average Tunisian needs to feel difference.
Prime Minister Mehdi Jomaa says that makes the stability of a new constitution all the more important.
Our success needs the return of security and the restoration of investor confidence to support economic development. This is what can help the Tunisian people realize their expectations.
U.S. officials say they'll continue to support Tunisia's democratic trajectory as it moves toward the formation of electoral laws to govern presidential and parliamentary elections expected later this year.
We talk sports. New Star and Canon of Yaoundé locked horns today in a delayed match for the fourth playing day of the League One Championship. The match ended with Canon taking a victory over New Star as they beat them 2-1. Apparently, the first goal came at the 16th minute, an error on the part of Onana Njumo of Canon. And the second goal came at the 39th minute, equalizing the goals. And the winning goal for Canon came at the second half of the match. It's on that note that we close the curtains to this newscast. Televiewers, it was a pleasure being in your company. Don't go away. Programs continue on the Dan Broadcasting System. However, Eric Tobimboa will be here with the news in Molière's language. Until then, continue to enjoy programs on the Dan Broadcasting System. Good night. See you tomorrow.
C'est une équipe de journalistes et d'animateurs